Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Christopher Wynn. I'm an attorney with Aberrant Law, and between Racy Rodney and I, we represent Norhan Askar, and she is the passenger who was in the vehicle with Winston Smith at the time he was shot. Our client would like to share a story, which starts with plans for a lunch date with Winston Smith. They met through mutual friends, had known each other for over 6 months, and had been dating for several weeks. Mr. Smith met her at another parking lot so she would not have to pay for parking when they went to Stella's. Mr. Smith changed his shirt because it was hot and his shirt was sweaty. They drove to the top of a ramp, walked downstairs, had lunch, laughed, had a couple of drinks, and enjoyed each other's company. They walked back to the car, entered the car, and were suddenly surrounded by unmarked cars and people with guns. These people were dressed in neither sheriff nor peace officer uniforms. They yelled commands and did not announce themselves as law enforcement of any kind. While yelling commands for them to put their hands up, multiple armed people targeted their weapons upon Ms. Askar and Mr. Smith. Our client complied with their commands, scared for her life. Mr. Smith had a mobile device and began to Facebook Live. As he raised his phone, all Ms. Askar could hear was gunfire and saw Mr. Smith's body slump over. After the barrage of bullets, they pulled her out of the car, handcuffed her, and placed her into the back of an unmarked car. She remained handcuffed until an ambulance arrived to provide her medical attention. An officer later asked her how her date was. Besides the trauma of having her lunch date shot to death while seated immediately next to her, our client was sprayed with broken glass shot out by law enforcement. Glass that even today, she is taking out of her skin. Our client continues to heal. She is experiencing a roller coaster of emotions related to this case, and even being in a car brings significant anxiety. Our client never saw a gun in the car, and to be clear, she never saw Winston Smith in possession of a gun.
The agencies involved in the killing of Winston Smith and our elected officials have shown zero interest or have demonstrated no political appetite for requiring transparency or accountability. Furthermore, the BCA claims that they cannot release the names of the sheriff's deputies involved as they were undercover officers. Law enforcement has a duty to announce themselves, and the selection of undercover officers to execute a warrant, knowing that they're required to announce themselves, is a clear display of incompetence. The BCA has informed us that they also failed to take gunshot residue tests from the body of Mr. Smith. And the body of Mr. Smith was washed by the Hennepin County Medical Examiner before these tests were conducted. This evidence would assist in figuring out whether Mr. Smith had a gun or not. It would reinforce the story that Ms. Askar is telling us today. Given the public's significant investment of resources and money, training, equipment, and policy creation to implement body-worn cameras into law enforcement, the effort to circumvent these transparency and accountability measures is an affront to the rule of law and the work of so many that have put forward in their law enforcement agencies. We ask the public to join us in demanding better and holding law enforcement to a higher standard, because all Minnesotans deserve to have trust and confidence in the law enforcement agencies and agents.
What we have heard here today from the attorneys who are representing the witness is highly disturbing, but sadly it does not come as a surprise. We have called on Governor Walz to establish an office of the independent special prosecutor to investigate killings at the hands of the police. He has the power under his executive authority to do so. We are asking him to act swiftly because we cannot trust the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension to investigate any killings involving the police in the state of Minnesota. Beyond that, some of the members of the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension participated in the U.S. Marshals Task Force, which we believe is a conflict of interest. Additionally, Ramona Doman hired Drew Evans, who is the superintendent for the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. So he is in effect investigating his former boss, which again is a conflict of interest, which should disqualify the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. We want answers in this case. We demand accountability in this case. We demand transparency in this case. That is the least of what should happen in the community in which George Floyd and many other stolen lives have been taken at the hands of police. Thank you.
We have for far too long have asked for transparency and accountability, and you can tell when they are lying, you can tell when they are trying to make up something. But in this case, they didn't even make up anything. They're refusing to acknowledge the death of Winston Smith. They're refusing to provide information to the community and the media. They're refusing to recognize the existence and the humanity of Winston Smith and his family. It is shame on the state. It is shame on this country. It is shame on Democrats, the Biden administration, and the Walz administration for failing Black lives. Just yesterday, the state of Minnesota failed to protect Black lives and began to protect police. And that is the reality that we live in today. Winston Smith should have been here with us, but he was gunned down by officers who did not report who they were, who were in unmarked cars, who refused to turn on cameras because they were out hunting. They were out hunting and they wanted to kill a Black man, and they killed a Black man, Winston Smith, in Uptown.
But now we learn that he was killed over a cell phone. And now we learn that the BCA has once again botched an investigation willfully to cover for police. I don't believe for a minute that there aren't videos at that garage. In fact, I know there were. From individuals who got in contact with us, we know that there were films in those garages, in that garage. We don't believe it for a minute. There's not a garage, parking ramp anywhere in the city that doesn't have plenty of videos. So we're not believing these lies. We stand with this witness. We stand with the family of Winston Smith, and we demand justice now.
Winston Smith should not have died. No matter what he did, if he did anything, we can arrest people without killing them, no matter what crime he is accused of. And our Constitution says you are innocent until proven guilty. We need them to prove that they did nothing wrong by not hiding their face and showing the videos that we know that they have. And if they believe that the killing of Winston Smith was justified, they need to show us the video, point out what they feel is justified, so we all can have the same information that they do.
This is disgusting here in Minnesota that once again, the families have come out beforehand and said that this has happened in prior cases where people have lost their lives to police violence. And here we are, we're witnessing it live, the cover-up. And we have to sit over here and do better. The community needs to come out and demand that this video or be released. We do believe there is a video. There is a camera at the top of the stairs of that garage. And the fact that they come out and say there is no video, it's a cover-up. There's nothing else that we can say.
Doesn't matter what Winston Smith did. It does not matter what his record looks like. Nothing justifies him being murdered on broad daylight and not knowing why. I cannot imagine what that young lady is going through and having to watch her friend be murdered in front of her eyes, and then poof, it's like gone. It's like it never happened. Nobody talks about it.